set up everything and get everything just right, except for the Cosmotronic intro, which was just this very and it's just there. Hi everybody, it's Pseudo.
And I particularly, Pseudo, love the original sound effect. Did the lucky viewers get the sound effect as well?
They'll have to let us know. I have absolutely no idea. Before we begin and before we let you guys, and I pass everything over to Mizpah to let him lead the show, I want to say a quick hello to everyone who has decided to show up way ahead of time. There are over 40 of you guys here, so instead of trying to announce absolutely every single person's name, what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce 2 names, and then I'm going to make Mizpah, in his incredibly quick voice, try to get all 40 of you in one breath. So pull up the list if you can. Let's see if Twitch is working on our side today, because I basically want to hear Mizpah talk really, really fast.
Yes, but if you want to see that, I can only announce the names of the people who I've seen speak in chat.
Yes. So if you want Mizpah to try to actually get your name in there within, one breath, there's like over 40 of you, by all means. Say something now in chat. And while we wait for Twitch to catch up with all of us, I guess it's a good time for us to at least introduce ourselves.
Indeed, so what have we got going on tonight? Well, it's tonight in this time zone. It's a different time of the day in other time zones, but that's how time zones work. Funny things, aren't they? However, we have a full crew and a full house. I'll come back to these. I was feeling very left out the other week, it must be said. But from left to right, we have a Kaeyi.
Hello!
I changed the screen. It was just you. And I just took a drink of something that was more than just what I thought it was. There's something alcoholic in here, and I totally did not expect that at all.
That's the danger of having someone else make your pre-show drink. And no, it wasn't me. So we have a Kaeyi, and of course we have a Pseudo, because Pseudo said hello already.
Hi, everybody.
And last but by no means least, it's a Gazimoff. How are we doing?
Buongiorno. I have experienced the tortures and pains of British Rail for just one day too much.
I think clearly you need a British Rail plushie to cheer you up. Because
I could give him an evil...
various soft goods here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my...
But you don't have any.
Yes, he does. He has a chewer. Where's your chewer?
Yes.
My microwavable owl.
I've got my Roustowers and my Lop, and I've got my Chompies. Where's your chewer, Gazzy?
Well, to be fair, considering I walked through my front door 5 minutes before we came on air, I think not prepping the plushies is a legitimate thing.
Gazimoff,
The
there's your problem.
Be flushed. What?
I
can't even speak.
Do you want to try that again, Kaeyi?
The plushie should always be prepped.
That's it, folks. That's your wise words for the day. Always
prep your
plushies. And Gazimoff, just for you, quick tip. Open the front door before you walk through it. Anyway, moving on with the bad puns. What are we doing today? It's crafting. So we get to look at what we need to do to make a new front door for Gazimoff, who's clearly left a Gazimoff-shaped hole in it. Well, that'd be the architect profession, but we can come back to that in a minute. As well as crafting, well, there's a few other bits and pieces that are going on. But as always, when we do anything else, it's time for the news with extra special sound effects.
We worked really hard on this, Gazzy. I hope you like this. Okay.
Cross fingers, everybody.
Cross fingers that this works. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed here. So I will let you know when you're ready. Okay, Gazzy, go ahead.
I have no idea what just happened. So the channel knows something, and I am completely in the dark. So I'm going to have to watch the replay later. So thank you for that. Also, on the subject of crafting, we're probably going to be talking a little bit about mining, which is going to be useful for Mizpah because of the holes he keeps digging himself in. There we go.
Quick, somebody make me a ladder.
Hey, I think actually I've got a chewer net.
Is that a net made of chewers or for chewers?
Both.
Imagine a net made of chewers. Would you make very little chewers and kind of stitch them together? Or would it just be a net on a vast scale for really big things? And the chewers all hold on to sort of the ankles and wrists
You
of the chewers next to
shred
them.
the chewers into little sections, and then you
I'm not
sew
liking the
them
sound
up.
of this.
So that
I
would
really
be known
don't
as chewistry.
Chewer strips.
Go ahead, Gazzy. You take the news, my dear.
Yes. Okay. So there have been 2 items this week that are worthy of note. The first is that we are being teased with a poster saying that sometime in the near future we will probably have a WildStar flick to look forward to. There's this poster featuring the ominous green glow of the caretaker. So if you haven't,
There's a caption as well.
there is.
Hold on. Who wants to do it in the creepy voice?
I'll let Mizpah do it in a creepy voice.
I'll do the creepy face.
Okay.
I now
So
have to
Mizpah
pull up the caption if you say this.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Go ahead.
It's something along the lines of choose wisely, but I don't have it right in front of me, so let's fix that.
Be rewarded.
That's it.
Well, there's
So
that,
why did-
and
why
there's
did
also
someone
on
else
the
do the creepy
website.
voice?
It says something else on the website.
Uh-huh.
I'll post it into the Skype chat for you to see.
Indeed, we have. Coming up next week. Choose well and be
Slip by.
rewarded. Something like that.
You know, I give up. I try to lead us into something awesome. No one's prepared.
I'm prepared.
You're supposed to tell us where you're leading us first.
Indeed.
Do I really need to do that?
Sometimes. It's probably not as
So
much fun though
yes,
for everyone else.
Mizpah, you can read, can't you?
I can.
Well, we
Okay,
discovered
so
last week that he may actually play games occasionally.
No.
Hey, I actually managed to get some WildStar time in last night for the first time in a long time. Great to see some stuff.
You lie. You had your
All
Butler
5
Jeeves
levels.
playing for
All
you.
5 levels of it, yes. Yes, we started a new character called MMOBuff. So if you see an MMOBuff running around, be sure to say hello. Or shoot it if that's your personal preference.
I'm shooting it.
It's a shame.
So-
What side is it on? Exile or Dominion?
Say, whichever one it is, it's actually probably the other one, unless I'm not telling the truth, in which case it might still be the one that I'm saying it is.
Yes.
Gazzy,
So-
how much does it cost
Yeah.
for, we'll just say in a hypothetical situation for a host who might want to have a Turgunkin fired at another host? How much does it cost?
Well, there's wear and tear on the Tagunkan to consider, first of all. And then there's the prep time, because you have to actually go and catch your ammunition. And have you ever tried loading a Tagunkan? It's quite complicated. You end up having to trigger a 4-dimensional fold in space in order to lure the various different creatures in, because you can't fire it with cooked ammo. You have to fire it live to get the full effects. And then there's all of the kind of rigmarole and red tape involved. You have to pay Dominion taxes. So, yeah,
It is.
And now we know why you
Could be
don't see more
pricey.
Dunkins out in the wild.
exactly.
Fair enough.
Minion, I got it bad.
So,
We have a WildStar flick coming. What else?
yeah, so we have a WildStar flick coming, and on the website it says, "Who's ready for an adventure?" Now, the caretaker, who is the subject of this poster, is a Elden AI, pretty much. I guess that's the best way you could describe him. He can be found in the various exo labs. So as you're wandering around in places like Derridune or Northern Wilds, in fact, I'm not sure if there's one in Northern, but there are various exo labs dotted around. And this caretaker seems to be a kind of recurring figure that's monitoring these places, keeping them ticking over, and highlighting various issues that he then requests adventurers go out and solve. So it's interesting that they've chosen this man and his book of lore, because it could mean a variety of different things. Now, one of the theories that's kicking around is that it's a precursor to one of the raids, potentially the Galactic Archives, I think, was one on the Datascape, which is another. And that could be quite interesting. If they're talking about revealing what's going on in there, then that would be fantastic. But there could be a number of other bits and pieces that have yet to be revealed. So theorists unite. But one thing I will say is that another WildStar flick, whatever it is going to be worth looking forward to. If the last one about they're always good. If the last one about classes was anything to go by, then it's going to be brilliant. I think the only thing that I find disappointing about the WildStar flicks is that there's no disclaimer at the front of them. But
You and me
can't have everything.
both. I hate that. I'm all like waiting for the next one, and then yeah.
But in terms of the last couple of flicks, the content hasn't been as obviously relatable to the image at first glance. So we're sure they've probably got a twist on it coming up somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
They like to keep us on our toes, as indeed you've said.
Yes. In fact, I think that in front of their occasional live streams, they should have disclaimers as well. In fact, disclaimer everything.
Before they speak, they should have a disclaimer.
I want to
Maybe they can
have.
little.
I was gonna say I just want to have tea with the disclaimer guy. That's all I want. Just want to sit down and have some tea with him.
They ought to have the little black cue cards go flip, 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 flip.
Flashcards. Disclaimer guy does not
What should
speak.
be on the flashcards? We'll come back to that one later.
Yes.
I want to pick up on something in the channel very briefly, and indeed surprise people here, I think, at the same time. Exile Tony, will Cosmotronic have a key giveaway? Yes. But I can't tell you about that till later, so that's all you get for now.
I need keys.
Teasing everyone.
Ah, yes, but people like to be teased about keys, because then they know there's stuff to come later on down the line. But keep your eyes peeled.
Mizpah the key teaser.
The key master. Are you the gatekeeper?
We'll be giving the keys to Swagzilla as always.
No, for
she's
this
not
show,
gonna distribute.
I am not Swagzilla. I am Lopzilla.
Okay, Lopzilla.
Yes.
My apologies.
You're very welcome.
But the main topic.
Yes, the main topic.
For the day.
Philip Chan, who's one of the systems designers at Carbine, sat down with a smorgasbord of journalists from various outlets to talk all about crafting. Now, his remit is all around trade skills, so things that are crafted and produced. There's another guy, Chris Magoon, I think his name is actually, who does the gathering side of things. So, you know, when you've got the worm that erupts from the ground, or the little plants that become a stem dragon and stuff like that, that's all he's doing. And you've got other people again who do things like the itemization, the economy, and all those other bits and pieces. So anything that's manufactured, crafted, produced, stuff like that, that's all Philip Chan's remit, if you like. So the actual manufacturing skills. So we sat down and had a chat with him for a good hour or so, and he talks to both the US guys and the EU guys about all kinds of areas relating to crafting. Now, we'll probably dig into this a bit more later, but it covered everything from the bare basics and the philosophies all the way through to the kind of things that they're thinking about doing for end game crafting as well. So there's nothing set in stone for that yet, but there's a lot of possibilities that were mentioned, which are really, really tempting. So I have so many fingers crossed there, but I will tell you more later.
Now who's teasing?
We're going to take it in turns now. So, well, to talk about crafting, not sure how many people have seen that much of crafting. So perhaps we ought to throw up a few visuals and point people to a couple of things, and maybe with that, for those that aren't so familiar with the game, will be a walkthrough of what the various crafting options are.
Is this your statement for me to do the thing with the stuff?
It is. Do your thing with the
Okay.
stuff.
Right.
And while the stuff with the thing is doing what's it,
Righty-o.
we'll say, Kai, what's your favourite trade skill and why?
My favourite trade skill is technologist, because it's pretty much the closest thing to your traditional kind of alchemist in MMOs. So you can create potions and healing things and all that good stuff. And I always just like that kind of profession because I always think it's relevant. So, you know, as a raider, everyone will need potions. And I'm assuming I'm hoping
Demand
that they're
is never going away.
yeah, I'm hoping that they go down the traditional route of having flasks. I'm hoping that that's something that we'll get end game, and having that kind of profession means that you'll create flasks and you'll be able to make money and also be an asset to your raid team. So that's my favorite.
So that's technologist, and it reads something along the lines of combining mysterious omniplasm with local flora. The technologist is a master experimenter. Sounds like a chewer, Gazimoff. Creating powerful medical and attribute-enhancing potions. Well, no, they just blow things up. No longer sounds like a chewer. This trade skill is best paired with Relic Hunter, which means we have another one to talk about. Relic Hunter. Would you care to explore relics for a moment, Gazzy?
Yeah.
When you finish exploring your cappuccino?
Well, they can't see us now, so basically they have no idea of what we're doing.
They
So we
missed
could be
that bit.
making faces and Yes, it's probably easier if I guide people through what they're called, because otherwise people are going to hear your voice and it's going to be completely different on the stream, and it might just be really weird. But I
Yes.
can read this stuff. Granted, at this current moment in time, one of the things people may notice is that I cannot swap my trade skills for another 3 hours. That is something that is really, really, really impressive to me when it comes to trade skills, is simply the fact that I can have all of this stuff. I could be a weaponsmith, which is the art of forging weapons from metal and infusing them with Elden circuitry, and having it paired with mining. I could be an armorer who forges heavy armor from metal plates, then powers them with microchips and power amplifiers. And I could also put that with mining if I wanted to. Which leads us to mining!
But before we dive through any further, now you said you like the fact that you can switch. I'm going to throw a curveball out here for people. And there's maybe an argument both ways on this one, because if we're always switching and capable of being anything at a given point in time, is there a danger that people will say, well, anyone can be anything, so I'll just change what I want to be on a given day? Do you think we're still encouraging people to say, hey, I want to go really deep into this? I know it's something they've actually thought about, because there's some mechanics there as well, which is a lovely segue. Do you want to pick up on that one, Gazimoff?
So the thing that really surprised me about WildStar's crafting system is that there is more than one. With every other MMO that I've played, you have one type of crafting, and it's usually, here's a list of recipes, and you slowly work your way from the bottom runs to the higher up ones, gathering skill points as you go. And it's literally, as long as you have the materials to run through those recipes, it is push button, receive bacon, or push button, receive linen shirt, and then Maidry shirt, and then blah, 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 all the way up. Some of the, some games make it a little bit more interesting in that you can discover variants on recipes. Guild Wars 2, for example, had one that was basically drop items together and see if they would create an interesting variant. But again, it was a little bit limiting, and it was basically, here's a list, and you churn your way up. WildStar does two things and has two systems which are very, very clever, and I've actually got a lot of admiration for them. The first one is circuit board crafting, which means that you can create a basic item, say, for example, a pair of boots. And you think, well, this is a bog standard pair of boots. The cool thing is you can then tweak that pair of boots and say, well, actually, I want a different set of stats in it, or I want to even gamble all of my materials to try and push the pair of boots up a few item levels and make them a bit special.
Which, by the way, is not what we're showing on screen right now, just so that you are aware.
No. So both of those mechanics, the ability to customize the stats that it produces and the ability to overcharge, so bump up the amount of power going through those boots and increase the level of stats even more, are two really cool features which I don't think are prevalent in other MMOs. Now, some people have said that the overcharge system might have been in Dark Ages of Camelot, but to have those two, it means that you can do two things. You can customize what you want each item to do, and you can maximize it. So you can really push the amount of power, and there's a bit of a risk-reward system there. But
and one of the nice things there, design stuff again, is it lets people go, well, hey, am I just going to be a crafter because I craft the same way I go to the vendor, the same way I kill mobs, the same way I get lost in my own house? Or am I actually going to specialize in it? Put a lot of effort into it. So in the same way someone might be a top-end raider, they might go out and explore every single inch of the world, or get lost in simply their own bedroom.
Exactly. And this is one of the second nuances of this system, the fact that if you want to really specialize in crafting, you can go off the beaten track and start digging into the trade skill tech trees, if you like. This allows you to then say, okay, if I make a certain number of one variety of boots, I might unlock something else, like a different variety, a slightly more graded variety, or something else, like a pair of gauntlets in the same tech family, something like that. And you can slowly work your way around. So rather than just making the same things, you can say, well, actually, I want to specialize in particular facets of armor or particular types of weapon, but you unlock all of these different recipes, so you can sink a lot more time in it if you want to. The other perk of doing that is that as you go through and unlock these additional recipes, you also pick up the occasional talent point at the end. And yes, crafting does have talent points. Those talent points will allow you to do things like increase the ability to overcharge weapons, pick different slots, different stats, and maybe even add additional stats. So you could have, say, 3 stats instead of 2. All of those start to become options as you specialize further in a particular crafting. Now, that's not going to say you'll be able to specialize and say, okay, I want to be a weaponsmith. I'm going to be a weaponsmith broad strokes. But it would say, I want to be a weaponsmith. Actually, I want to be a swordsmith and really focus on producing really good quality swords so that warriors get the best they can for either dealing damage or tanking, depending on what the warrior plays. And even then, they could focus on providing particular stats, depending on that person's play style. So there's so much customization and specialization you can pack in on that one system. And that's what makes it really, really good for me. Have you got any more thoughts on circuit board crafting before I move on to the next one?
Well, one of the things that I was showing on the screen is one of the recipes that I currently have available. And I was going through some of the trade skills, etc., or I should say the talent trees, and also showing the trade skills table as it was going through. But what I was showing is the fact that in this particular case, I have a recipe that is open. It's currently in preview mode only because I'm not about to try to craft this. But if people look, you can actually see a blue bar that goes across the top. And it goes across the top from what is known as aesthetic synthetic into synthetic functional. And all I know is that somewhere inside that little blue bar, there is a new recipe to be found. I don't know where it is. I have no clue. But what I do know is every time I'm trying to make this drooping cable segment, I can either decide to make a short hanging cable if I actually get my particular functions right. Because as you can see, if I put things in here, I'm actually controlling the direction that I am sending stuff. And now I can actually make this. Or I can just start sending all of the different components up into the top to see if I can find that extra recipe. That to me is fun. It's no longer just a matter of I can make 6, click button, walk away, while I'm making a million of the same thing just to level up my skill set. It doesn't work like that anymore. And I think that just adds yet another layer of diversity that makes the game so captivating. And at least them's be my 2 pences on that.
That's my brain.
So are we going to get to see you try and do things with your cable segments?
Well, that just might work. It all depends on if, in the process of us having a conversation, I can make my little way over to a house owned by a beautiful KaeyiDream. Is your house set up on this character, by the way, Kai? I meant to totally ask.
I do have a house, but what do you want my house for?
I'm going to hand you stuff because I'm an architect.
To loot and pillage it.
I make stuff for
take
people,
all the materials.
And I have a whole bunch of stuff just sitting here in my bags waiting, and I'm just going to bring it and let you play with them, really. So, but what I do want to point out in this before I go too much further, because this was mentioned earlier in the show, but if you look at the schematics that I do have available, yes, that is Chua netting. And that is
Sounds
all I am
interesting.
going to say on that one. And now I'm going to let you guys continue your conversation, and I am going to start making my way over towards a place for
You
houses.
need to go to your own house first, yeah. Okay.
I kind of need to make my way and do stuff, and I can't quite do that until I do the stuff. So I'm going to do that while they do their thing.
Lots of stuff currently
Okay,
being
so
done.
the second different crafting mechanism is coordinate crafting. So if circuit board crafting takes care of producing armor and equipable items, circuit board crafting takes care of consumables. So things like potions, also things like food, all those kind of snacky, munchy, globby things. Coordinate crafting basically means that you start off with a box standard recipe, like before. So it could be a plain vanilla healing potion. And by adding various different additives to it, you might change the effect. You might discover how to make a heal over time, or even a bloom potion that heals for a while and then gives off a instant burst effect at the end on the last tick. Both of those options are quite useful in their own way, but they're not readily apparent. You have to work out how much of each additive to add and moving your kind of possible recipe away from this central safe zone where you make the bog standard healing potion and over to one of the other options. The really cool feature is those options aren't going to be in the same place for everyone. So my coordinate crafting will be different from Mizpah's and so on and so forth. That means that it's going to be really difficult to say to someone, yeah, just add so much of this and so much of that and you'll get the right answer. It's going to be more about, okay, working out how to get there. And so you'll find a lot of guides and strategies for doing coordinate crafting, but you won't find any kind of do this and you'll get it. There won't be any walkthroughs for it.
And that's actually a great thing, because
Yes.
in so many other games you just see that, hey, someone's worked it out, and then someone just says, I'm going to follow these 413 steps, and I can do that one-handed whilst eating a pizza and playing Tetris with my toes. You're now not really going to have that option unless you've got particularly dextile toes. You're going to have to actually concentrate a little bit, and at the very least multitask while you get the job done. And I, for one, think that's a good thing. I'm hoping that it adds some value to crafters and adds some value to crafted items, and that cascades into economy and all of that good stuff that comes off the back of it.
Yes. And that's the really cool thing about it. If you put the time and effort into specializing in crafting in a particular way and really trying to be the best that you can, then that's going to be reflected in the quality of items that you produce. That means that when you then put them up on the trading post to sell to other people, that they're going to be that much more worthwhile. And this is the really interesting thing. Philip Chan said, currently, everything you make is tradable. It might be bound on equip, but there is nothing that's soulbound. So if you're worried about creating a spangly sword and being stuck with it, for the moment, don't worry.
Now, see, that to me brings up at least the interesting concept of the fact that if you have that kind of luxury, and one of the things that we are talking about is the fact that we have the luxury to change your trade skills almost on the flip of a hat. Granted, there is a cost involved, including time, as you have seen. What impact is this going to have on the crafting community when it comes to grouping together? Or is the trade chat going to be a bunch of, well, I can make stuff, you can make stuff. So
I think
you know.
I think the
I have to
difficulty
say,
is
the
that
crafting community couldn't say to each other, hey, I can make stuff, and they can go, hey, I can make stuff too, then it really wouldn't be much of a crafting community.
yeah, I think that
There was a point there.
yes, I think that what we'll end up with is people specializing in a particular way. So they'll say, right, I want to be a really good swordsmith, or I want to be the best at making pistols that you can possibly find. Another person might say, I want to be the absolute best at making heavy armor specifically for engineers, with all the engineer stats and stuff like that. And that's how I think things will eventually pan out. And I also think that you'll probably end up with people being recognized on the server that they're playing for being good at those particular crafts and being the kind of go-to people for those particular crafts, because they'll be able to say, yes, I've got plenty of materials in stock. Yes, the items that I make are highly likely to be overly statted, so heavily overcharged, really pushing the eye levels up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what I think you'll end up with, because the people who want to kind of flip between are either going to be heavy, hardcore completionists, or they're just going to say, right, I just want to get maxed out in each profession. I don't really care about specializing or going into any detail. I just want to get to the crafting skill cap in each one, which is not going to produce the best quality items.
In some games, you have crafting very beneficial to what you do end game. In the fact that it gives you, say, a bonus at end game. Has there been any discussion? Because you said and you teased, and now I'm coming back and I'm looking at you, Gazi. I'm looking at you. Is this where we get to say what's up with that?
So, in terms of making crafting useful at end game, Philip Chan has a number of ideas. Now, one of the things
not
that
set
he
in
said
stone, though, is what we need to stress.
Nothing
above
is set in stone.
everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So he said one thing which was really interesting. After working on a number of different crafting systems, and he did the crafting system in Warhammer Online before he moved to Carbine and started working on WildStar. And he's done other econ bits and pieces as well. He says that Carbine and the dev team at Carbine have been the first ones to actually listen to him about crafting requests and actually think about integrating crafting with all the other elements. So you've got cases where if you play PvP, you'll probably get rewarded with PvP style crafting recipes, either through recipes to buy with currency. It's unlikely to be PvP recipe drops off other people, but more likely to be you collected a load of points, you get a recipe that you can now turn into an item. So there's that kind of stuff. You go and run dungeons, you'll get rewarded with crafted item recipes for dungeon type stats, that kind of thing. And hopefully the same thing in raids as well. But it doesn't end there. There's the possibility of having things like materials that drop from raids, which could be used for doing some really epic crafts. Now, if you played Warcraft, you probably remember things like Thunder Fury and Sulphurous and Atiesh and all of those really epic crafts. And there's every chance that that kind of cool stuff will be making its way into WildStar as well. And I really hope it does. I really, really hope it does. But here is the kick. Here is the kick. Hopefully, it'll be tradable as well.
Wait a second. Wait. You just totally made me stop everything that I'm doing right here. Are you telling me that there is a possibility of their things being, to coin a phrase, the legendary most, oh my gosh, holy cow, in your face stuff, and yet it's not soulbound when you pick it up?
Who will buy my expensive alloy? I can just see that coming up right now.
I just imagine
one trading
Andres
material,
just running
5
around
billion gold.
So this is the other thing. So things like the whole thing that he said was that his ethos was, if you're doing the raids and you're earning the materials, it should be on the raid group to decide what they want to do with it. If they decide they want to keep the materials, then, or keep the end product, then good luck to them. If they want to flog it, fair enough. That was his ethos. It might be different for the guys who are actually doing the itemization. They might say, well, actually, we need to prune this back a bit. But wouldn't it be cool if, particularly if you are a guy who's spent ages doing crafting, pummeled a hell of a lot of work into really stretching it out, doesn't have the time to raid, and some raid group turns around and says, you are an uber crafter on the server, and here you go, here's the mats, go make this glorious weapon.
Okay, so
now, see, I like that because of the fact that it supports communities. You know, it sponsors a server community, which is nice.
I could argue this both ways, but Kai, you're in a guild. People in the guild want the Sword of Doom. The materials drop to allow the Sword of Doom to be made. Fantastic. No one on the server has yet got the Sword of Doom. It has the +10 to sparkliness stat.
And
you
it's pink.
really want it.
It's
It's
pink.
pink 'cause-
Ooh!
Yep.
So there you go.
Okay.
It comes with 2 kitten pets. It's +10 to sparkliness, and it's pink,
Oh my god.
and it probably does other stuff as well that no one yet knows about. And
Right.
someone says, "Tell you what, we could sell it."
I'm like,
Yes,
I'll tell
you
you what,
could.
I'm throwing you down. I'm throwing you into Mordor.
He's not
Selling
to
my-
throw Mizpah into Mordor.
My pink sparkly weapon.
But that actually raises an interesting conundrum, because all of a sudden now the social group of the guild, the outfit, the raid team, the whatever it might be, has got to deal with the dynamic of actually saying, well, what do we do with this stuff? Now,
But
to
there's
me,
a,
I have an obvious answer, but then I would. What do people
there's
think?
there is a third answer to consider as well.
Go on,
I can sell cred for in-game gold. So a legendary item is crafted, the likes of which have never been seen before. And
Oh my god, yeah.
Sparkly.
Mr. Day Trader, who plays WildStar once a week, but has a wallet the size of Belgium, says,
That's a big
here
wallet.
you go. Here you go. I will make sure that you never ever need gold ever again. You will have a gold balance that's maxed out for that
There
legendary.
will be
That's when it's getting a bit pay to win, isn't it?
that occurrence. I find the concept amusing, especially a wallet within which the whole of the motorway network is lit, and it's the only wallet like that in Europe. But no, I want people's effort in terms of items and sparkly stuff to stay with the group.
Well,
Because I
that's a
don't like
that's
the
a
concept of
decision
motorway.
that every guild themselves
Mhm.
or community
Yeah.
has to make for themselves. So think
Yeah,
about
that-
this. We have this ultimate item of crafty, pinky awesomeness, etc. And yet we know for a fact that we'll say 50% of our guild has gone back to school, so they can't actually get their time in to do all the playing that they want to make. We have another 25% who is working their bums off and are not able to play these 16 hours a day that they wish they could dedicate to the game alone. So we have this problem, yet we know that if we sold this gigantic, epic sword of awesomeness, we would have enough money to fund raid mats for a while. We'd have enough money to fund gear for people. We can go back and we can make that that gigantic epic thing again. But by having that option available, that could actually be really beneficial to those guilds who can't. I mean, the option is there. That opens up a whole lot of awesomeness in some respects. Yeah, people are going to have rules in place. That's a natural part of communities. Plug for the campfire on Tuesdays. But, you know, the reality is people need to make that decision for themselves, for their own groups.
Yeah.
What we
I
come
don't
up with
like
is
the
not
idea
going to
that
work
that's
for
right.
everybody, but the fact that that option is there, and let's say, you know, a small guild got together and they did this, they could in essence sell it off, and with that money they could fund their group, which may be something that some of the 1%ers actually decide to do.
Kai,
Yes.
you were saying.
I don't like the idea that someone with a wallet the size of Belgium could buy a legendary.
Well,
with you.
Makes
here's
me sad.
here's a flip side for you. On EVE Online, the biggest, most fantastical spaceships you can buy are called Titans. Okay? When you climb into a Titan, it is so vast you will never climb out of it. It is effectively a space coffin, yeah, that you're flying around. And considering that the capsuleers are immortal, well, near as, that means that as long as you don't get blown up, you will have that Titan for the rest of the game. You won't be able to do very much because you're stuck in it. But anyway, the point still stands. They take months and months and months, if not years, to build, and they cost a fortune. Yet there is nothing stopping people from shelling out, buying Plex, and selling those on the trading posts in order to fund the construction of an avatar. It would require a phenomenal amount of money. It would require hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to do so, but the option is there for the players that want it. The key thing is that you have this rotating economy where the money that guilds earn, should they choose to go down it, gets filtered down and doesn't sit somewhere. It gets spent on other things and it goes around. But the key thing is that it also means that a guild might say, well, actually, we want the first version of the sparkly sword, but a second and the third one, well, no, we'll look at selling off. And that means also that when you get to the instance where you're organizing runs through raids for cash, which is something that a lot of the high-end guilds do. They do fun runs and get like 3 or 5 people to pay for a seat. It means that in the future you could say, well, actually, we'll sell the crafted items. And you might have various different grades of crafted items from these instances directly to people. So that's, again, another option. And it creates, like Josie said, this community. I think that the key thing is that a guild has got to make the decision. Do we want to sell it? Or do we want to keep it? But having a choice is a powerful thing.
It can shape an awful lot. It really, really can.
And I would strongly advocate to guilds who may find themselves in that position in the future, have that discussion and make those choices before you set foot in wherever the encounter
As we stress big time on the campfire, have the laws written before you do stuff. Or be willing to modify them as you go. But in all honesty, if you don't have something in place, you're going to screw yourself up. And again, plug for the campfire.
Let's jump back to a couple of quick things that we've touched on.
Well, I want to go over to what Aiko has stated and pointed out in chat.
I'll come to that one in a minute because I want to go back to some bits that were a touch earlier. We're talking about being able to go and do stuff that's activity related and get relevant drops. And we haven't seen this for a long time. It was prevalent back in the day in Vanilla Warcraft. There were certain places people would go and farm for those rare drops that had value, and that in turn put more value on the items. You had things like Black Dragon Scale springs to mind. There was something near one of the Mage Towers and bits and pieces. How much value do you think there's going to be if there truly are this is hard to get, this is rare, only one person in X actually has it? It's something that I'm actually hoping for. I'm hoping for some stuff that is, 0.00005% drop. Do people find that frustrating, or do they like it?
I like it.
We have a plus vote from Kai. Gazimoff?
Yeah, I think it's special.
Okay,
especially if you're the one that gets it, if you can put the effort in.
Yeah.
So I think that if you've got crafting materials, yes, it's quite relevant to have crafting materials of different rareness. So you've got some which is really common, some which is not so common. That makes sense, and I have no issue with that. I've got to be honest with you, though. The things that we were talking about in terms of gathering and potentially material drops and all those other bits and pieces, we did not really cover because, like I said, it's Chris Magoon's role in terms of gathering, in terms of dungeon drops and raid drops. That's all in a state of flux. It's kind of fuzzy.
Quite a few things are. I mean, people do need to remember this is still in beta. Something may happen, and they may decide to go back to the drawing board. I mean, when we were at Gamescom, that was one of the big things that was stressed by Jeremy Gaffney was we want to re-itemize everything. So beta's gone until we got it fixed. So we just don't know what is going to occur.
Yeah. So I think that the key thing, though, is that there's going to be a difference between items that have been crafted and items that are just drops. And I would expect there to be a decent amount of things like raid drops, which people can put on and say, yes, I got this at a raid. Yes, I put it on. Yes, it's soulbound. And don't I look smart? That kind of thing.
Swaggy.
But I do expect I'm hoping for there to be crafted items, either that are made from raid materials, that creates these epic journeys. These were huge undertakings for guilds.
Back
I'm
in
really
the day.
hoping.
Yeah, you needed to have the whole guild support you through it. Yeah, I want those things back. I do.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want that mount to drop. I want the reins that allow you to find and actually capture that mount to drop so that you are forced to go out, find that as a raid, take it down so that you can apply the reins to it, and then you get the mount. That, to me, would be pretty epic and cool.
Yeah.
Granted, I'd expect a bit more.
Guild that will support you, unless everyone in your guild hates you and they're like, no, screw you.
Then why are you in that guild to begin with?
And just please don't make it like trying to find Broken Tooth once upon a time was.
Hey, Atiesh.
Yeah.
Guess who still has the bits of wood in their bank?
I still have the gloop and the blood for the Ice Crown Citadel weapon sat in my
And I
bank.
ended up logging in on Christmas Day for the lower server pop once upon a time to actually capture that pet myself. But there we go. It worked. What else do we want to touch on?
I think
Go,
that
Gaz.
the kind of only other thing that's kind of worth mentioning, well, there was a lot that we covered, and there's some really, really good articles out there. And I would recommend you read all of them because there's...
Don't leave anything out. There's just so much that if you don't cover everything, yeah.
Yeah. So there's one on Dealspoon, or Dealspone, which is a European site, a UK site, which has one set of information. There's my article up on MMORPG.com, which you can find there under the WildStar game. And there's one on WildStar forums. I think Massively has got one as well. But yeah, there's a lot of information out there. And we've all got our different take on what this means and how it'll impact crafting and the kind of enjoyment that's potentially going to be there. And I really hope that things like the epic tales that we had from back in those days come back in WildStar. I really, really look forward to that. But yeah, nothing set in stone.
On that note, I was actually I mentioned one thing to Mizpah earlier, and I said, "Oh, Miz, I feel like I've got my WoW addiction back from when I was 17 years old. Like I actually feel like that. Like I keep replaying the 1 to 15 areas, and I'm wanting to log in even if I'm not doing anything. I'm just stood in Fade, and I'm like, oh man, it's back. I'm excited.
It's got that hook, and it's been missing for a while. So to those people that haven't been lucky enough to get these things attached to these things and do so within a gaming context, you've got that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
The thing I take away from crafting as a whole, then, is it's a deep, rich, robust system. There are different mechanics for creation. There's a wealth of mechanics and things to do to go out and get both the assets, the materials, and get eaten while you're doing it, but also to get the recipes. You can opt to become deep and meaningful within your craft, or you can opt to be a generalist. But the crafting tentacles spread throughout the entirety of the game. Crafting is not just this little bubble that sits there and says, "Hello, I'm crafting." I don't know if bubbles sound like that, but this one apparently does. Crafting is integral, not just as something you do, but something that affects every aspect of the game. And that's great. And it's reflected in everything from how the development teams are set up and can communicate to the design choices that have been made. So those people who are crafting mavens should have a whale of a time in crafting. And when the time and place comes to look at Elder Game crafting, well, we can probably expect something very special there as well. But I think, is it time to go to the channel?
Well, we have 10 minutes left in our show to start, yes. And Kai logged out.
And were you going to show us your cable, Pseudo?
I will be showing cable, but I guess I'm going to have to do it on my own plot.
No, I'm gonna get back in. Hold on.
I'm just going to have to do it on my own plot.
No, I'm in.
Well, I'm at my home now. Now, what I need to do, and I'm going to do this while you can take whatever questions and tackle what Aiko had said in the chat. I actually need to go pick up items from my mailbox. So, yes.
Always helpful.
Mm.
I'm looking
Let's
in.
see what
I'm
we
gonna
have
make you my neighbor.
You are? Which one?
Neighbor
I've got a couple of houses here, so I've just picked one. Yeah. I need to get to a
Just
mailbox.
while people sort that out, Gazimoff, have you decided what you're going to be crafting-wise in-game?
So crafting-wise, I am going to be... I am thinking possibly a technologist because, hey, consumables. And this is the kind of thing, I'm harking back to the WoW days. I'm thinking, well, consumables were quite useful and enchanting was quite useful once it got going. But things like tailoring and stuff were kind of flat because unless you managed to lay your hands on one of the uber rare recipes, it never really went anywhere and you were forever poor. So I'm kind of on the fence at the moment. I'd like to get a kind of a profession or trade skill that I can make use of, but I'm also thinking, well, I don't want to. It's a tough one. I mean, what I might end up doing is having one character who's got several trade skills and one character that does things like mining and farming and stuff like that, and all the gathering professions. So that's another way I might balance it out. But yeah, it's a tough one.
That's the thing. One of the things that stands out to me when it comes to all of the customization and everything, or I should say all of the trade skills, is, there was a day where your alts were your gatherers, and then you'd send everything forward to, well, Mizpah doesn't count in this case because Mizpah can't level an alt to save himself. But those of us who had alts, you would have your alts actually do nothing but gather, because that's one of the best ways to make money, selling low-level mats or giving mats to whatever you happen to be crafting, because there was a time when certain mats were incredibly rare to get your hands on. However, what I am finding for myself just through playstyle is just have a gathering profession, 2 of them, and just gather while you're running around questing. And when you're ready to just sit down and, not really wanting to fight things, but you just want to get through stuff, then you pick up something like I did with Architect, and then you start using what you've collected to actually make all this stuff architecturally. Yes, that's just something that I am noticing.
I am concerned, though, that I don't know if this is the case, but I'm concerned about that kind of that time delay in flipping from one trade skill to another.
Well, there's also a financial cost too.
Yeah,
I think it increases every time you change it. It does.
So I would rather.
I'd much rather just have an alt with.
Yeah, I'm going to be rolling.
See, I think that's what's going to end up happening. I think a lot of people will end up taking alts, etc.
Because I'll probably do what Gazzy said and have either like a gathering and a trade skill on one character, and then a gathering and different trade skill on another, or just have 2 on 1.
Yeah.
I'll
probably have a stalker doing the gathering, so I can sneak around and then do the gathering.
But that's not going to do you any good when you end up going up against things, because you're all like, okay, this is a mine. So you pull out this awesome little pickaxe of yours, which is actually like this mining drill, and you're like, nyeh, nyeh. And then boom, it turns into this giant worm. Well, you're not stealth.
And I will go, I'm going to vanish, and the moose.
Yeah, but if you kill that worm, you could get more mining nodes by dropping down into the wormhole, and it's like mining central there. It is amazing.
Yeah, but it's going to be like, done. I want the next one. It's big worm or little mining node. Yeah.
And this is what makes this game so exceptional.
Yep.
Your playstyle. There you go.
I have faced those big worms on my engineer, playing my chewer. And first of all, this thing is about 10 times as tall as a chewer. So you're standing there.
That's first of all, hard.
No.
You're standing there with your mining laser, and you're going bada 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 bada, and it leaps out, and then you go, oh crud, and then okay, right, fine. I shall spawn my robots to give me a hand with trying to tackle this thing, and you're trying to shoot it down. And it's actually really, really tough to take this thing down solo. If you've got a mate around, fantastic. But if you haven't, then it's like, really have to pay attention to what you're doing just to kind of drop this thing before it irons you to death. Not with a kind of like steam iron thing, but you get the idea.
I've now got a vision of a worm attack where it can iron a chewer.
That's exactly what I was just picturing in my head, and I really like this.
Are you thinking of a chewer that's 24 feet wide and 3 inches thick?
Yes!
That sounds like a great chewer.
It sounds like the way all chewers should be.
Then I shall tell an amusing anecdote, so you can laugh accordingly. Apparently, when I was very little, and I must have been, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 5, or a number towards the lower end of the spectrum, I was taken to the zoo, as all the little children go to the zoo one day in their lives. And we went to an area with sort of, British animals. and there were hedgehogs. And I was really upset.
Did you see
when I
any
was told there were
haggis?
hedgehogs. No, no wild haggis. But I was really upset when I was pointed out that these were hedgehogs, and I refused to believe the fact, and apparently I burst into tears, upset at the lack of hedgehogs. And when asked why, I explained that I'd seen hedgehogs before, and without fail, hedgehogs were flat. And these weren't flat, so these were hedgehogs.
Oh.
True story.
I was expecting you to be extra cool and actually say they were blue.
No, simply not flat enough for my taste in hedgehogs at that point. But one thing we haven't touched on, just very briefly, is we haven't split the difference between professions and hobbies,
Well,
which not everyone will be aware of.
That's true.
it's the best way to put it
one
is
other thing.
hobbies everyone
Hobbies.
gets.
Yes.
Everyone gets it all the time.
So there is one really important hobby that everyone wants to make sure they spend time in, and that's rune crafting.
Yes.
Do you know why? Because armor sets in WildStar will not have set bonuses. You'll be able to collect all the different pieces, but you won't get a bonus for doing so. If you want to get a bonus for having all of the sets, you get that from runes. So you get the really cool outfit that you want, and then you plug the runes into the various rune slots, and once all the runes are plugged in, then you get a bonus for having all of the runes active. So that's a really nifty feature, the fact that the set bonus doesn't come from the armor pieces, it comes from the runes. How do you make runes? From bits left over from doing your crafting.
And
I find-
salvaging, isn't it?
And yeah, and salvaging as well.
Salvaging, which everyone could do. And
Yes.
they've now added like
Yes.
this really cool feature. They added in you can salvage like multiple things kind of at once. You have like a little
Yeah.
window and you can like next salvage. I'm sure there'll be an add-on like salvage all at some point.
Savage this.
Yes, bound to exist. But if I do look at the clock of doom, it is 1 minute to go.
Yep.
Indeed.
Has the owl survived, Kai?
Yes. How much does this owl look like my kittens?
A lot.
It's quite similar.
You're already in a group,
What's
Kai. You need to
owl
join my other group.
interaction like here?
Oh what?
You can't get her interaction. She has to group with me. You were grouped with my other character. I sent these to my other character so that I could get to you because my home is there. So what I need you to do is
Too
accept.
many characters.
What's a girl gonna do?
Okay.
But go ahead.
I'm looking.
But I think we might just about be at a wrap-up point. So, after feeling currently, last week, thoroughly disappointed in my lack of glasses, I have now solved this problem. There we go. After comments, back to normal again. And now it's really, really bright, now that I take these off.
Are you wearing a
Everyone's
pair of
changed.
gunnars, or are they?
I was disappointed at not being able to hang with the cool kids with the glasses, so we brought a pair of these along today.
Since when are
Just for
glasses
fun.
wearers cool kids?
I'm still in a group.
I don't know. We need a vote. Do we go for the glasses or the non-glasses
log in.
version?
I'm trying.
You look more like a Protostar employee with the glasses
Here we
on. I've got to
go.
be honest with you.
Yes, you do.
Definitely not green enough.
Okay, you can invite me now.
We'll
Lovely.
have one last go at rustling up Pseudo's cable.
There we go.
Well,
So you're gonna
actually-
come play with our cables.
Well,
in
I'm
my
currently
house.
at my house, so we need to neighbor each other and all that other stuff. But you guys can basically start your bye-byes and stuff.
Social lists.
Yes.
Add
Okay.
neighbor.
So
So, Gazzy, after you.
no, you carry on. You carry on.
I'm simply
Maestro.
going to filibuster and fill time whilst waiting for the matriculation of the picture. We'll come up with other random words. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to say thank you to Diddle Cadle, ECOC, Jaredar, Squidager, ECOC, Nightbot, Tetic, ICICO, BogBrandon124, Exotony, SlugGothWag19, and other people, Villagram, and other people that I can see over there in the channel. I'm going to remind people that there are a wealth of professions they can actually do. We've got weaponsmith, armorer, mining, outfitter, survivalist, technologist, relic hunter, architect, tailor, and of course we move on to the hobbies of cooking, farming, and rune crafting. Lots and lots to do. No fishing, but maybe it'll come later on down the line.
Post-launch.
Yep. We hope. Because we have to have fishing. It's just the
Well-
done thing.
Has to.
They were trying to work on fishing and they were developing it, but they couldn't make it deep an experience.
WildStar eat enough. See, only in WildStar fishing do the fish eat you after you've caught them. I'm just sure
Yes.
that's coming.
We did suggest they might need a longer line to make it a bit deeper.
Who knows? We shall see what happens. But on that note,
On that
I think we're
note,
just about done and wrapped up.
almost.
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 Do we have the picture, the image, the cables?
And we have something a little better, and Kai, we're going to do this right after we come back on the stream. However, what I do want to remind people of is next week we have another Cosmotronic on Friday at 8, so make certain that you show up. We are going to be streaming WildStar now here at MMOBuff.TV, so do keep yourselves favorited here on the channel below so that you can be informed when we are streaming. The streamer may be me, it may be Mizpah, it may be Gazi, it may be Kai, it may be Aiko, it may be a number of the MMOBuff staff, but it will be happening. So definitely keep your eyes peeled on Twitter as well as Twitch, because as we know, Twitch sometimes doesn't send the email out on time. We're getting there. Next Monday, we are going to be having our regular podcast back, unfortunately, due to some rather chuetic events and things involving tiny goblin engineers. Last Monday's show did not occur. But that's okay, because that's all sorted. But do make certain that you show up for our Monday topic. We have some crazy stuff we're discussing. And then the week after that, on Monday, we have Pantheon back. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, you are going to want to be there because there is going to be something huge occurring on the 17th, but I cannot tell you yet. Tuesday.
I will say it involves people you want to listen to, and it's going to be live.
Yes. Yes, it will be live. And I will have the right mic this time. But anyway, Tuesday, I have Screen at Your Back with Blank Space. We may or may not have a guest. I don't know yet. Trying to figure that one out. For the campfire where we talk all things guilds and communities. Sort of like we were starting to get into here, and I'm all like, no, that's the other show. But yeah, they all kind of impact each other, which is one of the things we love about MMO Buff. It's not just about the MMOs. It's about any kind of online experience, and that it all, you can't have one part without affecting the other, which is why all our shows do that. And then on Wednesday, Marshmallows and I are going to be going back into online TCGs, this time talking about maintaining the curve. And let me tell you, it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was. Holy cow. However, we will also be getting into things like mid-game, late game, early game, aggro control, things like that. You are not going to want to miss that either. And Thursday may actually involve somebody streaming.
Something will be happening.
And then Friday, we're back again. So basically, pay attention. We've got a lot of stuff going on. You are going to want to be around. Now you can close the show, Mizpah. You wanted to close it without telling people about stuff. Oh,
Hang on.
Yes, Gazi.
Mizpah mentioned keys earlier.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm looking after the guys in the channel here because you mentioned keys. You mentioned keys.
People in the channel want to know about keys. I see no one in the channel talking about keys.
Lopzilla's going to get angry. Lopzilla's going to come to your house, and Lopzilla needs to fix his mustache. Lopzilla.
Okay, I'll throw one more thing out. If people are here for the next Cosmotronic show, they're probably going to be glad that they were here. That's all.
Oh.
Lop will beat you up, Mizpah. Lop will come over there, and Lop will beat you. Anyway, let us say goodbyes.
Where's this furniture for my house?
We're going to take care of that. We got to actually close out of the show.
We're going to close the show. We're going to come back. We're going to do post-show. I'm going to talk like this and wave my hands around for no reason whatsoever. Before I do that, it's goodbye from Gazimoff.
Goodbye.
It's au revoir from KaeyiDream.
Au revoir.
And it's probably, like always, Toodle Pip from Pseudo.
Toodle Pip.
And coming back to answer that question in a moment in the post-show, this is Mizpah, signing off, MMOBuff.TV. Later, folks.